Kitco Mining special coverage of the Deutsche Goldmesse is brought to you by Faraday Copper.
Lucas Lundin said that Filo Mining's project is growing into one of the largest copper, silver, gold discoveries ever. I'm with the CEO, Jamie Beck. How you doing, Jamie?
I'm great, Michael. How are you?
Very well, very well. Good to see you in person.
Yeah, you too.
Tell us about Filo Mining's and what it's focused on.
So we have the 100% owned Filo Del Sol project. It is in San Juan, Argentina. We're exploring for copper, gold, and silver. And it's really shaping up to be a pretty special asset. It's got size, it's got scale, it's got grade, and hopefully is going to be in the right position as the copper assets get pretty important over the next few years.
Let's start with the share structure first, because you had a bit of news on that as well too. I led with the late Lucas Lundin. The family has about 32% of Filo, and then also I think BHP came in and has about 10%, and that was recent. Is that right?
They took a 5% interest in the company in February, so earlier this year, and that was $100 million strategic investment into the company, and has been great for us. And in fact, it's been nice validation of our thesis and the district, and they've been strong supportive shareholders.
Take us up to a date. What's the work that's been done on the project?
This has been a story of perseverance, really, from the Lundin family. This land package was picked up in the late 1990s. Ultimately, through various corporate entities over the years, it ended up in a company called NGX Resources. And NGX had made three big discoveries in South America: Los Helados in Chile, Josemaria in Argentina, and Filo del Sol, which is on the border. And early discoveries in the previous, the first two projects led to sort of a lack of investment in the Filo del Sol asset. And so in 2016, we said, we think we're onto something sort of interesting here. Let's spin it out into its own company. So Filo ran into its own company, Filo Mining. We raised money and started exploring mostly for the oxide portion of the deposit. We put 50 or 60,000 meters of drilling into that, defined a resource on the oxides, took it from PEA to PFS, which we published in January of 2019. And that was a great, robust-looking project. And the board and management were then faced with, okay, well, what comes next? Do we take this oxide cap and move towards feasibility and production? But we made a very conscious decision to pause, and that was really driven by not wanting to make a mistake, really, in where we placed some of the infrastructure, leach pads, that kind of thing, had the potential to sterilize the upside and sterilize the future. So we went back to drilling in that 2018-19 season and started putting some holes deeper into the sulfide portion of the deposit, and Filo's just really been a runaway success since that time.
Let's talk about moving to a mine. What's the water situation?
Groundwater in Argentina, so it's a huge advantage. Obviously, water resources in this part of the world, as you well know, are scarce. And you know, if this was a project entirely in Chile, we'd be looking at having a desalination facility and pumping water to you know, up into the Andes. So having access to groundwater in Argentina is a critical advantage for the project.
Electricity and roads?
Yeah, we'll need to put in connections to the grid. So that's something that's in the future. You know, into development ideas, we've got options to connect either into the Chilean side, which is a little bit closer, or the Argentine side, which despite being a little farther away, has some advantages in that, that there's a sister company project very close to us, Josemaria Resources, which that Josemaria project was just acquired by Lundin Mining at the end of 2021. And so as that project moves forward, a really great opportunity for us to potentially piggyback on some of the synergies that might exist in terms of them building a power line and roads and developing all the infrastructure that comes along with a big copper project.
You mentioned it before as part of the NGX, and so Josemaria was, it's now been taken, it's been wholly owned by the Lundins, is that correct?
Lundin Mining,
Yeah,
yes.
Lundin Mining, correct. And so then So you'd be coordinating, there'd be a coordination in terms of development that would be happening between the two, you think?
Yeah, I mean, they're further advanced than our project, so presumably they develop it, and you know, I guess as we become users of that infrastructure, I'm sure some arrangement, whether it's a tolling agreement or an operating agreement, a sharing of costs, you know, we pay them back through operating costs for that upfront capital investment.
Now, it's a little high, is that right? Like its elevation, is
yeah.
that, so how does that, what does that do in terms of operations, and how do you have to plan for that?
It's up there in the Andes for sure, not without precedent. You know, the Veladero mine is about 100 kilometers to our south, one of Barrick's big operations, and they've been operating in San Juan province at elevation in a very similar environment for many years, quite successfully. So you just plan for a little less productivity, and it's a great opportunity, I think, for where we're seeing, you know, the future of mining, in particular autonomous mining equipment, any kind of autonomous drill and blast. So opportunities to move people down to lower elevations and make sure that they've got all their wits about them when they're driving around that type of equipment. So it sets itself up well for that.
Then I guess it would be not many communities around it or community relations regarding Filo?
Yeah, it's fairly remote. The nearest communities in Argentina are over 200 kilometers away. Nonetheless, there's people that are there. There's people that will be impacted, you know, both in terms of the positive benefits, you know, jobs, economic benefits, but also dealing with increased traffic and everything that comes with a big mining operation. So we actively engage with the communities and make sure they're up to speed on our exploration plans and generally what's going on in the broader district.
It's a part of the world where it just seems like there's just a ton going on, because I mean, you know, you're somewhat close to the salars, I guess. Well, no, I'm wrong, but as far as the lithium is what is going on right now, as far as the large copper mines that are there in terms of the investment that's coming into that space, I mean, it seems like, and never mind that everybody's trying to find a new source of copper.
It's really amazing country, Argentina, and for whatever reason, you know, maybe it's historic sort of political instability or concerns over jurisdiction. Chile and Peru and some of the others have garnered significant more exploration dollars, and that's led to significantly more mining activity in country. But the geology is the same; it's spectacular, and I gather, you know, as people are needing to look further afield and it's harder to make new discoveries, Argentina is really, as you say, starting to look like a bright spot in the mining industry.
You feel good about permitting and regulations and working with the Argentinian government?
I do, yeah. And the proof really is in the pudding. Again, our sister company at that Josemaria project, they submitted their environmental permits in February of 2021. And they had them in hand 13 months later in March of 2022. So to see the San Juan province, Argentina, really put their shoulder in behind that permitting process and get it across the line, I think is strong support for the mining industry and our project.
Jamie, the next 12 months, what's your milestones?
Drilling. Yeah, lots of drilling. We've got a very ambitious program planned. There's currently 8 drill rigs on site. Plan is to ramp up to 10 or 11 rigs by the early part of 2023, and about 40,000 meters of drilling planned this year. So that's about 3 times as much as we've ever accomplished in any one season. So it'll be hopefully fast and furious with lots of exciting drill news flow.
It was almost the last question. With what's happening with copper and with copper prices and everybody being bullish on copper, is that changing the way that the Lundin Mining is actually looking at the way that they're putting these projects? Is there types of fast tracking? Are they changing the economics? Is there just more investment? What's the way that you're looking at it?
Yeah, you know, I guess there's often a confusion in between sort of Lundin Mining and then the broader Lundin family and how they separate their investments. And our shareholders are the family trusts, you know, I guess just to sort of make sure that part's clear.
Clarify for me as well. It was kind of a broader stepping back question as well.
Yeah, too, you know, and we're starting to see that. one of their really big companies within the group was Lundin Energy, and it was recently sold earlier this year to Aker BP, a huge transaction for them. But it reflects, I think, a broader shift in their investment thinking, the family's investment thinking, and that was driven from Lucas and Ian and the boys now carrying that on. But it's a move to follow this energy transition a little bit away from fossil fuels and looking at these future-facing metals that are going to be required to drive that transition, copper being first and foremost in our minds. And so there's been big investment in that copper space, a huge priority placed on the copper projects within that portfolio, both Filo, NGX, and within the Lundin Mining portfolio, trying to grow copper. And we think this district has the potential to be a significant supplier of copper in the future.
Jamie, we appreciate you telling the story.
Thank you.
My name is Michael McRae. This is Kitco Mining covering Deutsche Goldmesse in Frankfurt.
Kitco Mining special coverage of the Deutsche Goldmesse is brought to you by Faraday Copper.